Hello and welcome everyone joining us today for a quick webinar on Beyond Sibling Rivalry and supporting siblings with youth with mental health struggles. My name is Jolene Arts. I am a registered psychotherapist as well as the director for an organization in London, Ontario called Humana Community Services. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge with respect and gratitude that the land on which we gather here is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Anishinabeg, Haudenosaunee, and Lenape peoples, who have longstanding relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. Additionally, there's a growing urban Indigenous population who make the City of London home. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of the local and regional First Nations of Turtle Island, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. And wherever you're joining us from, I hope you do the same in recognizing the land to which you are sitting on today. I would love to, first and foremost, after this, acknowledge the partnership that we have created that invited me to do this webinar in the first place, and Parents for Children Mental Health. We're proudly presented in collaboration with PCMH and CMHO. The PCMH provides meaningful engagement and family-centered care, empowering families so their voices are heard, recognized as the experts that you are. By working together with Children's Mental Health Ontario, we can advance family partnerships, family engagement, and family peer support within the broader system of child and youth mental health. To share quickly a little bit about my organization, we're broadly based out of London, Ontario, as I said. We're an inclusive and trusting social services agency connecting individuals and families to the right supports and services to help them live in community successfully. We offer various different programs for children and youth mental health as well as adults with developmental disabilities across Huron, Kent, and Middlesex counties. To learn more, you're more than welcome to take a look at our website to find out lots more. I would like to, again, thank you from so many interested participants and members of the Family Care Center who sent in questions. Although I may not be addressing every question directly, I have used all of the incredible questions that you have offered out and provided ahead of time to guide our learning objectives for today. I'm so grateful for that as the guide, as I want to ensure that this is a benefit to you in every way possible, and to know that there's many resources that you can access to support other questions that may be outside of what we talked about today or are very specific to your family's needs. So just a little run through of our learning objectives today, what we're going to learn together. We're going to start with what is sibling rivalry. We're going to go into what the signs, when it becomes a little bit beyond that, when it's a little bit beyond the regular or the developmentally appropriate sibling fighting or things like that. We're going to talk a lot about the developmental ages and stages, as that's really going to guide our ability to put the right strategies in place for the kids in our home. I've got some messages, hopefully inspiring to our parents and caregivers who are online today. Then we go right into some strategies. I haven't overwhelmed you with that, but really some foundational pieces in how we talk to our siblings of kids with mental health concerns, disabilities, and diagnoses. All those pieces to both help educate them, but also felt really heard in the situation that they're in when things become difficult or when things aren't so difficult. Then we're going to go into some parent burnout, caregiver burnout, as well as, of course, including that. We definitely want to look at taking care of you. And then we'll quickly touch on some resources. So first and foremost, again, what is sibling rivalry? So it often stems from jealousy over parental attention, competition for resources, and vying for status or power. The reasons change as kids get older, for sure, as different situations come up. It all just depends on what's going on. Siblings tend to be a natural practice point to learn conflict resolution or lack thereof with one another. And it's a great opportunity for practice in those skills with other peoples outside the family. Their understanding of fairness and social dynamics evolves as well as they grow. So we're going to really talk about that within the developmental ages and stages. But that can influence how they interact with siblings as well. And some theories suggest that sibling rivalry is a natural part of development. Of course it is. As anyone who has a sibling, it was not all roses. I'm sure growing up, I am part of a blended family of 5 siblings where we all had very, very different lenses of our upbringing and growing up, and we shared one bathroom. So beyond the sharing of bathroom fights that may occur, things can definitely become more difficult depending on what the dynamics are. Blended family is a great example of having different parents that are involved, different rules, again, different pieces of that. Sadness for the parents that may not be living in the home, sadness for the children who have connected parents still. So lots of different influences that can impact how our siblings get along and what their relationship looks like. Long-term effects of more serious or significant sibling rivalry, that is beyond the normal, not loving that word, but that's kind of where it is. But having excessive conflict can lead to feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem, and heightened anxiety. For today specifically, we're going to focus on sibling relationships that are influenced or impacted by one or more of the siblings living with a mental health struggle, concern, or diagnosis. And each family situation is absolutely unique. So although we will talk about different strategies today, it is definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation, and I'll try and cover that, and you'll hear those kind of terms quite a lot through our presentation. So when is there a concern? When is it beyond the typical sibling rivalry that we may see? And what, as parents and caregivers, can we watch out for? Some really specific things that we can look for is acting out or becoming aggressive. We may see an out of character style of aggressiveness or behaviors that may be not typical of our children. Altered eating habits can be some signs, and that can be more or less increased eating habits. They may become withdrawn or avoidant. Oftentimes, they don't want to put any more pressure on people, or don't want to say I may be embarrassed, or don't want to go out with my sibling who may have behaviors in the community. Those kind of things can really withdraw young people to go in the room and find other avenues to which may be positive or not positive supports. Problems outside the home, in school, you may see an increase in that. Of course, some jealousy of the siblings. Again, there's that very typical amount of jealousy within sibling dynamics. It's really where everything becomes a significant jealousy problem. You may see nightmares or fears. Some of the big two after this is the parent-like interactions and people-pleasing. I think that's what we see the most, where parents have to put so much investment, time, energy, sometimes into kids that have maybe more specialized needs or more needs that might take up those times. Oftentimes the siblings that don't have those needs feel really bad and will take on more of a parental role or a caregiver role than they typically would at their age. And definitely people pleasing becomes a pretty easy response for kids because they don't want to make anything worse or make anything harder. It's a whole lot of everybody trying to protect one another and forgetting that we all have feelings and voices in the situation. So back to the one size does not fit all, we're going to walk through some developmental ages and stages. Kids 0 to 18 are entering vastly different developmental learning phases, and age does not always depict these. So I want to be always really careful that even though you may have a 15-year-old, they may be at a developmental age or stage of a 7-year-old. And so being really aware of the different needs, neurodiversities, brain development, and other things going on for them do change those developmental stages of a young person. So just quickly to try and go through this and get to the good stuff. Stage 1, sensor motor. So this is age 0 to 2. These are the real little ones, babies to toddlers. They are learning and exploring their environment through senses, touch, motor activities. They try lots of things to receive results. It's the first stemming of learning cause and effect. They do not, obviously, understand a whole lot of dialogue, period, especially around any kind of psychoeducation or information around mental health. There is zero ability to grasp any of those pieces at that age and stage. But they do certainly pick up on our emotions easily. And so oftentimes our emotions will have that effect piece that we're talking about, learning cause and effect. And so seeing heightened or stressful situations from parents, caregivers, and siblings can create some of those picks up of emotion, and therefore the reaction is going to be related to that as opposed to other more attachment-based interactions. The next stage, stage 2, is pre-operational. So that would be ages 2 to 7, pretty big age group, but lots of learning happening here. So this is where they start to gain more abstract way of thinking, pretend play. They've got some magical thinking that they may or may not believe is true, unicorns, magical places. And they can talk about past events or people who are not in the room, which is something new at that age and stage. Before that, it doesn't exist unless it's in front of them. They do still struggle to understand someone else's point of view. That is a lot of learning within those phases that towards age 7, we start to see a little bit more of those empathy and compassion pieces going as it goes into struggling to empathize and hold compassion for other person's situations or struggles. At stage 3, this is kind of the good stuff. This is where things are getting much easier as far as, talk, ability to have conversation, processing. So this is concrete operation, and this is from age 7 to 11. This is where children can consider multiple outcomes and perspectives. Their worlds are just broadening so much. They're building problem-solving skills. They can understand things are reversible, and some perspectives of others, not all, as we definitely know as parents and caregivers. Ability to build genuine empathy and compassion really comes into play at this age and developmental stage. This is one of the best times to open up spaces and in reality, the environment, the culture of your family where siblings can come talk to you, and as a family, you can talk together. And then stage 4 is a formal operation, so ages 11 to adult. So at this point, youth thinking abstractly, test hypotheses, various possibilities, wanting to know things far beyond us as parents and what we've had to offer thus far. They're out looking for other people's points of views, which is really a unique time for us as parents and caregivers, as well as for them that are really trying to learn these concepts. They can have fantasies, but they also have what ifs. So they think about future states in many different quadrants and many different ways of looking at it. And so they also know that the what ifs would require steps to be taken to get towards that. And they can also easily research. We are in a world of very easy access to internet and all sorts of details behind their personal interactions. And so they can do lots of research via Google, amongst other things. This is a great time where their brain are most open to psychoeducation, really helping understand the background of things, the learning about things, understanding mental health diagnoses or struggles, and kind of what that means. So that's a helpful little piece. This is a bit blurry, so I'm going to apologize, but it's the best I could get on there. So if you take anything from today, before we start with some strategies, my hope is that you understand that your family is your team number one. Especially when you have a child with struggles or illness, the obstacles are never as big or great as when you have a family unit, when you as the family unit are facing the problem together. Building that therapeutic alliance and setting boundaries, making space for everyone's voice strengthens your family as a whole. And trying to protect everyone alone all the time is going to have you running. And it's just not a sustainable model. You can't protect everyone from everyone. Families together are so much stronger together. Brene Brown inspires me in so many ways. And so this beautiful manifesto she wrote on behalf of her, with her family, on behalf of her family, the message she wants her kids to hear, I feel is a great starting point to speak to where some of these strategies come into play and building this therapeutic alliance with your family and going through life really, truly together. So I'm just going to read it out loud to you. Above all else, I want you to know that you are loved and lovable. You will learn this from my words and actions. The lessons on love are in how I treat you and how I treat myself. I want you to engage with the world from a place of worthiness. You will learn that you are worthy of love, belonging, and joy. Every time you see me practice self-compassion and embrace my own imperfections, I will practice courage in our family by showing up, letting ourselves be seen, honoring vulnerability. We will share our stories of struggle and strength, and there will always be room in our home for both. We will teach you compassion by practicing compassion with ourselves first, then with each other. We will set and respect boundaries. We will honor hard work, hope, and perseverance. Rest and play will be family values as well as family practices. You will learn accountability and respect by watching me make mistakes and make amends, and by watching how I ask for what I need and talk about how I feel. I want you to know joy, so together we will practice gratitude. I want you to feel joy, so together We will learn how to be vulnerable. When uncertainty and scarcity visits, you'll be able to draw from the spirit that is part of our everyday life. Together we will cry and face fear and grief. I will want to take away your pain, but instead I will sit with you and teach you how to feel it. We will laugh and sing and dance and create. We will always have permission to be ourselves with each other. No matter what, you will always belong here. As you begin your wholehearted journey, the greatest gift that I can give to you is to live and love with my whole heart and to dare greatly. I will not teach or love or show you anything perfectly, but I will let you see me, and I will always hold sacred the gift of seeing you. Truly, deeply seeing you. Beautiful sentiment, in my opinion, of building that commitment to one another. This really definitely comes from a mom or a parent, first and foremost, but is a commitment you can make with your family of how you want to show up for each other. Not something we typically do as a family. We overlook it, and then things get really tough, and we haven't held each other to the standard or the ability that team number one or your family really can when we're facing big struggles or problems. This next piece is just something I found as I was creating this webinar, and I just wanted to read it because it really stood out to me. Instead of questioning the way we handle things and feeling guilty, what if we looked at those moments as our children showing us where we need to grow, raising us up? What a gift that would be. And just a little reminder that we aren't going to get it right. We are learning. We need licenses to drive, but we certainly don't want to parent. And there's not enough out there to help prepare us in the ways that I would love to see us as parents being prepared to face some of the struggles that we're seeing. And so I just wanted that as a beautiful reminder that we're learning together. Okay, so basic needs. I want to touch on some basic needs because it's really, really important things that we often miss out on. Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory explains that humans are motivated by a hierarchy of 5 basic needs: physiological safety or needs, safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization, with the lower needs needing to be met before higher ones can be addressed. I hate hierarchy, but in this case, this is a beautiful triangle that really states without the bottom layers being met, you cannot rise to the absolute top, which the ultimate would be the self-actualization. It's what we want to see our children aspire to and live their lives in. But before that, it's really so incredibly important to understand that before any strategies can be helpful, awareness of whether or not their basic needs are being met is key. And that applies no matter what age you are. So that is for both our kids and for us to take a look at. So when kids are dysregulated or behaviors need to be addressed, we often overlook some of those foundational needs. Even one of these not being met, it can significantly impact our ability to kind of move on or focus on the next level of their needs being met. I like to give the example of being hangry. If you've ever had a child who, when they haven't eaten, get quite hangry, those are right down to that basic physiological needs. We're not talking about necessarily not having a home or things like that, but that is that bottom base of those really basic sleep, diet, exercise, really basic things to get your body healthy enough to keep going for the day. So I just wanted to add that slide in there as a reminder of always ensuring that those are met both for yourself and others. So getting into the strategies, this is kind of a big things. A lot of the 5C approach really are connected in many ways, a lot of the same language in each of the C's explanation. But this is really a way of speaking to our children, working together as a family unit. It's some of those pieces when I go back to team number 1 of family, what you can do to really show up for each other. So I'm going to try and quickly go through that, and then I have an acronym that kind of pulls it all together as a bit of a reminder. Connection, so making it a habit. So regular check-ins with the siblings of a young person with mental health. We know we put some energy, and we know we have to have investment and things like that, and sometimes it can be exhausting. However, oftentimes, even if the sibling of the young person is not seemingly needing, checking in with them every single day is really important. I personally am a huge fan of car rides, especially with teenagers. They seem to open up in a beautiful way when they don't have to give you eye contact. So I find in the front seat when they're sitting there, that can be the best time to open up and just check in and share together. Create opportunities, engage in activities that encourage open communication, cook some dinner together, go for a walk, watch a movie. Finding that connection one-to-one with each sibling in the family is so important, just to keep knowing them and knowing who they are, and opening up that space that if they need to talk, they can. Listening actively. We can go into that in a lot more detail when I get to the next acronym, but when they share, listen attentively. It's not your time to speak, regardless of if you agree or disagree with what they're having to say. I know that's very hard as parents. It's not always easy, but I'll get to the reasoning why. Next C is coping. So validating feelings, acknowledging that their struggles are real and it's okay not to be okay. Offering support, helping identify healthy coping mechanism, such as talking. We're going to have lots of resources that are attached to this webinar. So lucky that Parent for Children Mental Health have incredible resources. So many other strategies beyond what I'm sharing today are going to be available for you to check in on that coping mechanism and different pieces. Talking to trusting friends, really encouraging that for your young person to have friends that they can talk to, engaging in hobbies or seeking professional help. Encouraging and seeking help is such a big thing. We often forego. We assume sometimes that you have to have a diagnosis or have to have a significant mental health need to work on your positive mental health. Mental health is a forever achievement that we have to keep working on day in and day out, regardless of. So ensuring that that's encouraged and supported. Calmness is C number 3. So maintain a calm demeanor. Easier said than done, isn't it, parents? I can understand how that feels a bit laughable in some cases, but it is really important to know the situations that you're in, especially when you're talking to a sibling, even if you are heightened by other situations that are going on in the family, really trying to come in as calm as possible. It creates a safe space. Ensure that your sibling feels comfortable and safe to share their feelings. We don't want to judge or ridicule any of their feelings, even though it does feel conflictual oftentimes when we're having these conversations with them. Practice patience, allowing your child time to process their emotions and share what they need to share. Fourth C is care. And again, like I said, these all do roll into each other's in lots of beautiful different ways, but showing empathy, trying to understand their perspective and acknowledge their feelings, even if you don't fully agree with them. I see leap there, and I will get right into that. That's where I can really jump into how that is shown. Be supportive, offering practical help. You don't have to do it all. You can help them with tasks, you can provide emotional support, and you can also encourage their own self-care and setting them up for really great opportunities for what self-care can look like, as well as role modeling for them what you do for self-care, because we need you to do some self-care as well. Reminding them to take care of themselves and engage in activities that are good for their well-being and overall health. And the last C is compassion, being understanding, remembering that everybody experiences mental health challenges differently, and be patient and understand. Avoiding judgment. Again, it kind of keeps going into that, not to say that families are always judgment, but it's when things are heavy or big, or you're already dealing with something, we can tend to get frustrated and even judge, because it's like, one more thing, come on. We just don't need to deal with. But and then offering unconditional support. Let them know that you're there no matter what is just such an important piece. So to break down the 5 C's into a really simple acronym that I have is LEAP. It's LEAP, like you're leaping into another something. I'm not sure. So walking that through, the L is for listen. And so it did touch through that all the way through, but I'm talking like listen. You are listening. You are listening to hear what your child has to say, not to speak back to them. They might be incredibly irrational. They may be cruel. They may have a lot of things that you don't agree with to say. They need to say it in a safe space, in a private space, that they can have that opportunity to vent, to express themselves and feel like their voice matters and is heard. And so I say no interrupting, and kind of you can give it a time limit. You can give it a space to do that, because it can go long. But, that has an unbelievable impact and effect for the next stages. So the next would be kind of happening simultaneous with the listen, which helps you kind of keep the lips sealed, is empathize. So instead of responding, empathy is really truly the art of sitting with. True empathy does not pull you out of the hole. I always visualize a great video with somebody at the top of the hole and be like, come on, I can pull you out and fix this problem for you. It's actually crawling down into the hole and sitting with for a moment. It's really sometimes just need that space to sit in big feelings, in hurt, in fear, in all sorts of the things that are going on for them. And so just being with is the best possible way to show empathy. Other ways are you're making sure you're listening, nodding head, eye contact, all of those things if appropriate. The A is for agree. This one can be tough because it sometimes comes across as we have to agree with everything they're saying. Absolutely not. What I can promise you, if you did your job listening, there will be numerous things that you can agree with. You're never going to agree with, yes, I agree, your sibling is a jerk. That's not going to be what we're agreeing with. However, can you agree that this must be really difficult for you? I agree that that must be a really hard situation that you're dealing with. I agree that that must be scary for you. You can always agree with that. And again, that validates their feelings. It validates their voice. It does not mean you are taking sides. It just means you are hearing an individual's voice because their voice matters, their perspective matters, their lens of the situation matters. And in that moment, that's what you're there doing, is listening to really hear what they have to say. And last but not least, we have partner. You'll know when it's time to move into this partnering, this solution-based aspect of the LEAP acronym. You will notice that they feel heard, understood. They will come back out. It will stop being the vent session and more into I'm ready to face this head on. Maybe fix it, maybe just address it. Who knows what it is, but it will certainly help. And so the next slide ahead, I do want to point out that there's some little bubbles on the side of these screens with some other C's. So it's another 5 C's that really go along with this well. And it's just for the younger where they're not maybe at the developmental age or stage, and sometimes they have these questions that they can be afraid to ask. But these are the very typical questions that siblings actually have, especially when they have a loved one with a mental health concern, could be a developmental disability, an illness. There's numerous things that if a sibling has something going on that they may not understand really well, these are some questions. So again, we're going to use the 5 C's. We're going to use the LEAP method to try and have these conversations with the kids and really clarify these questions. Can I catch it? That's scary for little kids. Can I catch what's going on? I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to feel yucky. Those are legitimate fears that kids have. Did I cause it? Oftentimes, kids take on so much ownership for things they cannot control. We'll get into that as well. Can I cure it? Most beautiful piece. I wish we had cures for all sorts of things. We're not broken. We don't necessarily need fixed. So those are the kind of things. It's not about fixing. It's about facing things head on together. Who will care for me in the times where you need to care for them is a big question siblings often have when they feel lonely, lost, or left out. And then how can I connect with them, which is a lot of what we're talking about today is ensuring that there's great opportunities as a family that you're connecting, as well as that siblings can connect with their own siblings in a pro-social way. So another wonderful tool is called the circle of control. And so this is really helpful, as I said, in the partnering phase of the LEAP acronym, but also just as processing, just even in conversation after when they may be asking questions, they may be frustrated with the sibling, they may just be really angry. And so it's always good to take a step back and say, okay, what energy are you putting into things that you can't control? And let's talk about what can you control and what can you not control? So this wheel just kind of goes through. One of my biggest ones is whether or not another person apologizes. An apology means very little if it's forced in those things. You have no control over how they're going to do that, what they choose to value, how much effort they're going to put into a relationship with you. You can't control that. Who they are as a person, whether or not they accept you or your choices, what they tell people about you, what life choices they make, whether or not they support you in any various ways, what the relationship is with other family members. It's completely out of your control. And how they speak to you. Again, you cannot control that of another person. And so really honing in and focusing on what young people can control and influence is going to give them the reins and feeling of another need that they have, which is power and control in the most healthy way we want to see happen. So I'm really focusing on that you can control how much access you give to somebody in your life and how much time you want to spend with them. That's in your control. Whether or not you forgive somebody, you can control how you communicate your boundaries and your needs and your wants. You can communicate and control how much effort you put into a relationship. And you can control how you choose to live your life. On the other side there, you see just a blank. It's really easy. I don't need to give out templates for these ones. It's 2 circles of a really kind of cool opportunity to sit down with your kids to explore feelings and really talk about what can you control and what you can't. The things that you can't control, if you're putting any energy or effort into it, then you are wasting your valuable time. And so just trying to help them understand those perspectives is a really important strategy that can be incredibly beneficial. So moving into the connections in more detail, I've just put down some different ideas. Of course, this is really about bonding and building connections, as well as some specific things that can be done when things are more of a crisis state or a safety risk in the home. So going up to the least of those, but always important, really building in the opportunity for sibling memory making activities and traditions. Recognizing those, being clear on those. There's so many different things that each family has that are special. Focusing on when those times are really good, it's really special. It can be anything from creating something together to what do you do at a certain holiday together that makes your family yours or that they have really special just together. Again, that goes into some family bonding time, really celebrating your team number one, your family. I've got, again, team. You think I really like that. I really, really do love the team number one idea. This would be team arts. So if it was my family, we'd be team arts. And I really encourage that you're never just focused on somebody's care plan because they have something going on or a mental health diagnosis. Everybody in the family is involved in the care. You're not protecting your other children by having them completely disconnected. It really does lead to the idea that you may be protecting them from this person, which means that they are intentionally causing harm. There's just so many things to that. So wherever possible and safe, it's so wonderful and important to involve the whole family in the care. And I love to look at it that way, as taking the problem away from the person. People are not problems. People are not the diagnosis to which they live within, live with, struggle with. It's something you face together. And when you really can separate that, I love the activity of almost even naming it. You can often do that. I've done this many times with things like eating disorders or anxiety. You give it a name, and then you give it a shape and say what it looks like. And then you're all, as a family, linked together, facing the problem together. You are fighting that problem together. And so that's so important to have everybody have a role, even if it's tiny, in care for a young person that is struggling with mental health. Setting even but not the same rules and boundaries. Lots and lots of questions about this fairness of rule setting. And I kind of just go back to having the conversation with all of your kids individually about who they are as individuals and not being held to expectations that don't meet their needs is unfair. That's the unfair thing, is believing that everybody is a cookie cutter of one another and has the same needs and the same wants and the same strategies that work for them. You're not the same. And that's what's so beautiful, is that we are a big puzzle together. We're each a piece, but not one of us have the same edges, but we make a beautiful piece together. And so in order to do that, we cannot always treat people the same. That's where, when you have the ability to really talk to kids who are going to understand about different, brain ability, different possibilities, understanding the mental health diagnosis or struggle that the person's going to, that changes the way somebody acts or thinks or sees the world. Those are the important things in sharing those when it comes to the fairness of what rules or expectations you give. Of course, you want it even. You don't want to go completely out of bounds, but in the same, all rules, no matter what's going on in the home, should be set based on the individual and not the whole. Encourage and support relationships with outside resources. I cannot say this enough. I think like going to the gym, like having a healthy diet, having someone to talk to, a counselor, a really good supportive friend, especially somebody who's really, when the struggles are getting more and more, I really highly encourage to connect kids with somebody that they can really talk to, a counselor, a therapist. It's just such an amazing opportunity for them to grow and understand their things outside of the family dynamic, because it can take some time not to feel guilt, feel bad about sharing some of their fears or frustrations with family members. Lots of options: family, friends, big brothers, peers, friends, groups and clubs, any sports you may be in, cultural clubs or groups, religious groups, extracurriculars, all important aspects of how we want to connect our kids in the best way possible. It takes a community. Creating family safety plans. I really love this idea. I think about a fire safety plan. There's not just one person who's involved in that. We're not just saving dad from the fire. It's the whole family has a route. We are all in different stages of the house. We all have different needs in order to get out safely. I look at safety plans very similarly when the family is involved. So going back to that, everyone's involved in care. Everyone has a voice in the safety plan. Everybody has a need for safety when things get really tough, risky, unsafe. And so making sure that everybody's voices are really, really heard in those situations is incredibly important. And again, it separates the problem from the person. And again, it builds up your team, number one, to face that problem together, to face the fire together, to get out safely together, to all have that same similar experience where everybody's well-being matters. And then, of course, offering some resource, movies, books, sibling support groups, and websites, all wonderful things to put out there for kids. There's learning never ends. And so anywhere that they can be connected is absolutely wonderful and highly recommended. Lastly, we've got the parent caregiver burnout. That's reality. This is all a lot of, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to do more? And I can understand that when you've been dealing with a whole lot for a long time and you're really, really at the end of your rope. I'm going to take a good guess that you've put yourself really last and taking care of yourself, your own self-care, your basic needs have not been looked at for a very long time. I want to really express that, as I've worked in intensive treatment basically my whole career for 23 years. And so I definitely empathize and understand that a lot of the times we're talking about much more significant things going on in the home when you are at that burnout point. So this is more talking, I really want to express really clearly that when you need help beyond what we're talking about today, there are resources. I really want to encourage anybody on the call that has really significant needs to reach out to the local community mental health resources, and that can be found at the CMHO Find Help on the website there. You'll see we're going to send you links for the access to all of those, as well as be at the end of this presentation. But where you need more in that, there is a significant amount of resources, funded resources within our community that can support things like respite, things like different needs to support you, again, a community surrounding you to support your family so you don't get to the point of crisis, so you don't get the point of disrepair of your family. However, for any other time, it really is key in caring for yourself in every possible way that you can and looking for peer support. One of the most incredible part of being part of and asked to join any kind of collaboration for Parents for Children's Mental Health, just so incredible for me as a parent to know that is available for us out there in this community right across Ontario. So there is numerous chapters of peer-to-peer support right across Ontario. We want to see, of course, that grow into every region. There are virtual chapters and availability and access monthly that could be taken up on just for support. There's nothing better than leaning into people who also know what you're going through. And so I highly, highly encourage you to find one near you. And that is where we come to an end. I hope I've had the ability to answer as many questions as possible for you when it comes to sibling rivalry. I want you to know, as parents and caregivers, you're doing an absolute phenomenal job with what you have, and just know that there are more resources. You're not alone. I do have on here just very simple ones: Parents for Children's Mental Health, of course, a direct link to that. Children Mental Health Ontario. There's a link for right across Ontario. Again, outside of the region that many of you will be viewing doing this webinar from. So please look there for as much find help aspects as you can. And I also included the Child Mind Institute, and that really has some amazing advice from siblings of kids with mental health disorders. And I really loved the stories on there. And if I would have had more time, I would have shared a few of those as well, as they really do provide some insight into the voices of young people, which I hope is what you're going to walk away from knowing that you're able to do with your child following this presentation. So thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to join another presentation soon.